look behind the scenes at Maggie's Cancer Centre. You may well have first experience of the place. You may well have driven into its gate. Is it Gate 3 off Hucknall Road? Into the City Hospital campus, and you say, I mean, there's no mistaking the Maggie Centre there, is it? It's a unique looking building. But what actually happens behind those doors? You will hear in the next 5 minutes or so about the power of writing. And it's something we touched on, a good couple of months ago, and they've got a new writer in residence at Maggie's. Here she is, actually, with a poem that she wrote herself.
Maggie's poem. I'm a tiny ship grinding into the harbour with 1,000 signs of rust, and a horn with a raw sweet chant. Yet the gorgeous summer sun that is Maggie's welcomes me in, and the language of the people here is that of urging you to find the apparatus to live. And the house has a lick of fashion, but the beauty is from the sun and the summer and the will to live.
That is really powerful stuff when you stop and think about it. So you'll hear more from Jo and her colleague at Maggie's Centre in just a few moments' time. Cast your mind back, a couple of months ago actually, we had Jo Weston on the show. She's from Sherwood. She has recently been made writer in residence at Maggie's Cancer Centre on the City Hospital campus. And it was interesting, last time she was on, and it just got me thinking about we should nip along to Maggie's, go and see some of the other people that are there, either getting treatment, some of the people that work there as well. So you'll hear from some of the workers behind the scenes a little later this week. But Jo's own story is very interesting. She has her own links to the Maggie's Cancer Care Centre herself, and here's a little bit of a recap for you.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer in December 2013. I can't remember the exact date that I first came to Maggie's, but I didn't come for a while because basically because I didn't want to admit I had cancer. So I'd sort of look at the building and think, I'm not going where people with cancer are going, even though that's my situation as well. And then I think I saw the timetable and I saw that creative writing was on it, and I thought, that would be a really good sort of escape from everything else that's going on. So I popped in here and thought, what a lovely place, and it's a completely different place to sit and have a cup of tea than sitting in a waiting room or a hospital cafe. It's like sitting in someone's house. When I was coming here regularly as a centre user, I felt like I was going to a house of loads of friends, a bit like being back at university, but the friends are all different ages and all different experiences. And I look forward to it, particularly when I was sort of doing treatments every other day and then coming in here and writing on a Friday and hearing other people's writing. It was the highlight of my week, Now,
it's fair to say you have been a writer for quite some time, so you're coming into this group as a bit of a writer. But there is this real spread of people, isn't there? That some of them won't have written anything since school age. What was that like for you as like I say, a bit of a writer?
It was really interesting because I believe that everyone's got something to contribute, and there were people who hadn't done any writing since school and who literally thought they were just going to listen to other people reading, and they'd write things themselves and say, I'm not reading it out. And then gradually we'd encourage them to read, and you think, my goodness, that's really good, but perhaps at school they'd been told they weren't good at writing, or something had happened that had got it fixed in their mind, and then that was it. And so it's amazing to discover people's skills that they didn't know they had. And then there's people who've been writing for years, not done anything professionally, and you're sitting there thinking, well, they should be doing things professionally. And there's people who say, well, I just do it for fun. I've got no intention of sort of taking it any further, and that's absolutely fine as well.
How has your writing changed from before you had cancer to now?
It's changed massively, but that's a combination of factors. That's partly that when I was off work having treatment, I had more time to spend on it, so I was doing probably more in that space of time than I'd done in the same space of time in previous years. And any writer would say that the more you write, hopefully the better you get. but also I had a brilliant tutor, Sheila, and Clare, the tutor of the creative writing group now, also looks at my stuff and gives me advice and things. And I did do the first part of the Masters in Creative Writing, where I learnt masses about editing and the two sort of things that Sheila Gallagher, when she was running the group here, and Rory Waterman, who heads the Masters in Creative Writing at NTU, said were that you need to read other people's stuff as much as possible, and you need to edit your stuff. And I didn't read enough before. I always thought, I haven't got time, and I was quite lazy. I used to quite often write something and then go, I'm bored of it now. But now I find it almost impossible to write something and not go back to it and rework it and try and improve it.
So you are writer in residence here, aren't you, at Maggie's? So just remind us what that actually means.
During the year, I'm going to be sitting in on sessions at the Maggie Centre and writing probably predominantly poetry, which is inspired by what I see and experience when I sit in. The idea is that the staff at Maggie's want to promote all the various activities that you can do at Maggie's, because people quite often have the impression that it's a very nice centre that you can go to for a cup of tea and a chat, and that's true, and there are counsellors and trained staff to help you, but there's so many other activities as well, and we're just trying to find more ways to get that across, particularly on social media and things like that.
So true what she says. That's Jo Weston, who is the writer in residence now at Maggie's Cancer Centre. And while I was there, I swiped one of their timetables. So every single day there is something happening. So, for example, right now on a Monday, living with less stress. Then there's a walking group, there's a drop-in, there's a relaxation drop-in session this afternoon as well. They do a singing group, there's various art groups as well, gardening groups, mindfulness course. It's fascinating. It's such a diverse timetable. Here in just a moment, from someone else actually, who's been through similar kind of treatment, who's been through cancer herself, and again is involved in the writing side of things at Maggie's. We'll hear from her next on BBC Radio Nottingham. Meantime, back to Maggie's, and you've already heard from Jo, who is their writer in residence. It's an interesting thing, this, the power of writing. Some people write about their experience of cancer. Some people write about something to take their minds off it. But I guess it's whatever works, isn't it, at the end of the day? Here is someone else, and it's actually the tutor of the writing group. This is Clare, and a bit of an insight into what they do.
We look at different aspects of writing. We look at poetry, fiction, memoir, journal writing, with the kind of emphasis on the therapeutic side of writing. And we do some writing actually in the sessions, and then we share, if we want to, people share their work, read out what they've written, but they don't have to, there's no obligation to do that. But people often are happy and keen to read out their work.
What do you think is so therapeutic about writing?
I think writing helps you express your emotions, and it helps you process experiences that you've been through. So everybody who comes to the group has some experience of cancer, either themselves or they've supported somebody else through cancer, or they've been bereaved through cancer. So it helps them kind of make sense of their experience in a way. And I think the very act of putting down on paper, putting down your feelings on paper, helps to process those feelings and get them kind of out of your head onto the paper. And there is actually there's a fair amount of evidence that shows that people who write are more able to, or people who do any kind of creative activity are more able to process their emotions. That there have been studies done on that sort of thing.
Do you find that people tend to write about their experience with cancer, or do they tend to write about something completely different?
Some people write about their experiences with cancer. Other people write about things that are completely different. I think for some people it's it's a means of escape, of getting, getting right away from it all. And so by doing things like fiction, we're enabling people to go into a world of their own imagination and get right away from, what's happening with treatment or whatever. But other people will link their writing quite often to, their experiences of going through cancer or, supporting other people through cancer, etc.
I bet you see some quite... Because I know last time when I spoke to Joe about this, it must be very interesting that, sometimes you must come across people that maybe haven't written for years and years and years, and yet other people might do a bit of poetry from time to time. But you must come across some very interesting bits of writing.
Yes, I'm always amazed at what people can come up with in a short length of time, because we do at least one writing exercise in each group session, sometimes two. We usually write for anything between 10, 20 minutes. And it really amazes me with the quality of the stuff that people create in that short, time space. Yes, and some people come to the group who've never really done any writing or never really written anything since school, or others are people who, write on a regular basis, who enjoy it as a hobby anyway. So it's, it doesn't matter.
What's your big passion with writing? What kind of things do you write?
I write fiction, short stories, and I've just written a novel which I'm hoping to get published.
All right.
Yes.
What kind of novel? Can you tell us?
It's a contemporary crime mystery story with a slight supernatural twist to it.
Right. Can I ask you about why you do this in particular? What is it about Maggie's, for instance, that makes you want to help out here?
Well, I've had cancer myself. I had breast cancer in 2010. Now, Maggie's wasn't here then, but I think I was still having treatment, and they started to build it. And I thought, what is that strange structure going up? It looks like a tree house. And then somebody told me what it was all about, so I came in. And I did actually go to the writing group a couple of times when a lady called Sheila was running it, and then she asked me, she wanted to retire, and she asked me if I was interested in taking over the group. That was last summer. So it combines two things that I feel strongly about: the experience of going through cancer and the therapeutic value of writing. And when I was going through my cancer, I wrote a blog actually, which I found the actual process of writing the blog was therapeutic.
What was it about writing a blog that helped?
It just helped me process what was going on, and it also helped me in practical ways. It helped other people know what was going on with me without having to phone up all the time or whatever. It was quite useful. I just started it just out of curiosity really, and then I sent a link to a few friends, and then they sent it to other people, and then the sort of net widened, and then people who I didn't know started reading it. I thought, people are actually reading this. And then I kind of linked up with other bloggers in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, and it was it turns the experience of having cancer into something positive. And I was also quite surprised that people were reading the blog to find out information about how I'd gone on, with bits of treatment. And I did a sort of countdown for my chemo, I think I had 6 chemos, so it was like 6, 1 down, 5 to go. I did a countdown, and it just and getting feedback and comments on the blog just encouraged me.
Fascinating stuff, isn't it? On all levels. So there's one woman's own account of her experience of cancer, how she dealt with it in terms of getting it out there in a blog, and her writing as well. Clare is the creative writing tutor at Maggie's, and later this week you'll hear from more people that work behind the scenes as well. It's a fascinating place, really interesting, and of course a subject that touches so many lives too. Thank you to Clare and to Joe for talking. It's BBC Radio Nottingham, just gone 11:30.